To be rich. I love money. I love rich. I love the financial freedom and the stability and the autonomy that I have as a freelancer, as a solopreneur, as a small businessman. Uh, you know, so liberty of doing things more and more what I really want to. Uh, no, but there's this one thing I found very critically, uh, which which is the reason why most people are not rich. And I'm talking about those people who already are in the corporates or already have a reasonably over 5 years of experience, 3 to 5 years, occasionally 10 years of experience in and established somewhere around 30 35 in the age group of 30 35. These are the people I'm talking about across globe, maybe US, India, Europe, whatever, because more or less now it's a globalization culture, so more or less the corporates are moving towards the same thing. The multinationals have more or less same culture. The interesting thing is pretty simple. Mm, the key thing that I found across any and every person who says, I'm not rich or something, is because they are not saving enough. They are not living below their means. If you want to be rich, ignore what rich dad says or what Warren Buffett or Peter Lynch or stock market or mutual fund or your banker or whatever. It comes to just one simple crux things: you have to live below your means. So either you create more money, and then also, so even if you are earning $10 million per year, you have to still live below your means. No, last night, in fact, a couple of days back, I had an interesting conversation with a banker friend of mine who's a mid-level, senior level manager, or relationship manager, in a very reputed bank in India. And there was some interesting thing. He was arguing this thing. I'm now 36. I have two kids. I'm earning six-figure per month, but most of the money goes in paying the private tuitions of the fees of kids. Then this costly home loan that I've taken. The instinctively, I just said, okay, have you ever read Rich Dad? He said, yeah, I love it, Rich Dad. Have you read Warren Buffett? I am hardcore believer of Warren Buffett. Great. Now the only thing I asked him is, if you are really following Rich Dad or Warren Buffett, the first and foremost thing is that you have to live below your means. How is it not possible? No, there's a question mark. And then he wastes unnecessary time arguing and counter arguing his case, which is the normal people do. Every failure, every loser, every person who's mediocrely successful, not very successful, are the ones who are endlessly arguing and trying to justify themselves and want the world to change accordingly. uh, every rich, every successful, I'm not talking essentially very rich, I'm talking about every successful, settled, well balanced and sincere, savvy person I have found are the ones who understood what is the circumstances, and accordingly they have adopted accordingly and taken a wiser move, assertive move about things. They do not, every successful person who really made to the richest story, I'm not talking rich to riches, I'm talking about anywhere between middle class to maybe rich or whatever is the criteria of rich, I do not care. But I rich hereby means is someone who is sufficiently financially stable and have sufficient financially strong grounds to have more assets, who is generating more revenues rather than liabilities. So the ones who really are not the ones who try to justify themselves. They learn the lessons and they implement it. And they are not the ones who are, in fact, everyone I found are the book lovers, but these are the persons who really implemented few and crux things. They are not the ones who are wasting time endlessly on arguing and on counter arguing on their cases. When I was in sales, in insurance company and a number of other sales profession, my bosses always wasted time. They had a very simple, in India there is a very simple, people like to waste time. They are called as advisors, and Raichand and Gyanchand, they are unwanted advisors to everything. Now the problem really is, in every sales guy, they are the ones who can lie to you anything, and the very next day they will change. So as of now, they might be saying, you should go north and you should never follow the ethical practice. I was in insurances, and my bosses, my chairmans, and all the big companies, their branch heads and everyone says, you should practice relationship marketing, because the HR manager was their HR head, so in front of them they have to portray as if they are the most ethical person, and say, boss, uh, you should sell only those products which the advisor, which the product want, not what where you are earning commission. Not, you should not come in the pressure of this and that, because this is what they want to basically lecture it in front of the HR and other senior directors. Okay, this is the company policy and things like that. When the real pressure and tough time comes, they're the first person who comes to me and says, you know what, change, that was only theory, this is now practical. uh, Pressurize this, force them, because they themselves are liars. It's so easy to change. The ones who really are rich are the ones who live below their means, and along with that, they implement the few crux things which they have learned. Now, this can be any and everyone, like your grandfather, who might be in a government job, or probably in army or whatever, maybe a small level peon, or in any kind of teaching profession or whatever it is, and he might have saved money and have raised a family and things like that. Or it can be a person who have taken some risk at some point of time, and after that he have been successful in settling up and paying off all these loans, and this is still rich. Whatever be the case is pretty simple. Any and every of such person who are rich and powerful are not like the banker friend of mine who is wasting endless hours, trying to pursue his case, on he's wasting time on arguing about the big brands, about Warren Buffett and this and that. You are basically fooling yourself if you are wasting endless hours on stock market and mutual fund and Warren Buffett and relationship manager and this and that. It's a simple thing, straightforward. Live below your means. Straightforward, simple. So there's another thing I'm going to stress you now. If you have read Rich Dad, if you have read Warren Buffett, if you have read most people others, there's a single name, there's a philosophy name, OPT and OPM, other people time and other people money. And this is the reason why people become richer and richer, and they become more on the affluent and the people thing. And the bigger version is that you launch the stock market portfolio, and you have a rotate the money and things like that, and you're successful in stock market and things like that. Now IPO and all this thing is just basically, IPO is just the basically utilizing other people money and rotating it, so it has to be successful. Now there is a problem here. It is the way we marketers are, and the way we corporate people are the ones who basically uh, you know we have our or the most of the news channels or what magazines are, that is our profession. We cannot help it. That is the way things are. uh, we have to portray the philosophy of what sells in the market. And the thing that we across globe human wants is the big, what the rich is doing, what Fortune is saying, what Forbes is saying. Yeah, it is a fact that the rich and the affluent people have crossed the level which you are right now, and even they are living in their own limits. The only difference is you probably might be earning less than $500,000 per year, or less than $1 million a year, and the rich might be earning probably $1 trillion a year. But they still have more or less the same crux philosophies which have helped them from your level of $500,000 to achieve the level of 1 million or $1 trillion per year level. The crux philosophies are just the same. The crux patterns are just the same. They implemented few things. They didn't wasted so much of time arguing and counter arguing according to the case. They learned the things what works best for them, and they found out an optimized mix, and they implemented it successfully with a marked consistency of 10 years. So but and again, for most people who are in middle class background, their only way, whether whatever route you take, you have to take some risk. There is no doubt about it. But first, you have to learn how to manage risk. It's not just taking risk is not the way you can simply playing blind. My philosophy in when it comes to taking risk is pretty simple. My ways of teaching how to go with swimming is pretty simple. Find a life jacket, and just a relatively stable swimming pool, and just jump in the swimming pool. Now please observe two things. First, I've asked you to wear a life jacket, so I'm managing and hedging my risk. So I've learned how to manage the risk. Second, I'm asking you to go in the swimming pool or a less risk zone. I'm not saying you to jump directly, from dive directly from 200 feet or 5 or 20 feet waterfall or things like that. You do not know, probably the waterfall might have a crocodile, but the swimming pool, which is relatively stable, is where you have relatively stable things. So first learn how to manage risk and then take systematically step by step risk. There are places in my life journey where I have to take you have to play blind on your intuition. This is my first principle, to play blind on my own intuition, not even my God. And in the age of uncertainty driven world today, which is social media or technology or whatever it is, uh, you have to basically live in the present moment and take life as it comes, and rely heavily on your intuition. The next video is more about this, uh, what to choose between logic and intuition and why. But one thing here critically is this: whatever be the route, if you are from middle class background or lower middle class background or non-affluent background, even if you are an affluent background, you have to still live below your means. The only difference is in the figures. So a middle class might be living probably for less than 10,000 rupees per month, or an affluent person might be living probably for 10 lakh rupees a month, or 10 million per month. Whatever is the case, the only difference is figure. You have to still, if you want a financially stable life, financially free life, you have to still live below your means. A calculated risk which is well managed and well hedged is very very different thing than just the blind notion of kids of or blind notion of what happens is, just go and take a risk. There's a very very two different scenarios. So and even when you are to take a sensible risk, when you are rotating other people money, might by taking loans or whatever, IPO route or whatever, there also it comes with the package deal of the big picture with lots of responsibilities, and you have to pay off the loans and things like that. So it's not just a get rich quick. Again, you have to live below your means if you have to pay the loans. So formula is quite simple. The whatever books, whatever personal finance philosophy, whatever your bankers, relationship manager, share market broker, whatever you have to say, understand this pretty simple thing. The first golden principle: live below your means, uh, save more. If you want to be rich, go calculate it first, develop sufficiently big resources, and there also when so let's say you are living at Arizona now, earning 1 lakh rupees a month. Probably you found out ways, not essentially by salaries, but you also find out some side businesses or some way by which, or some passive income portfolio, maybe renting out your house or probably mutual fund or whatever it is, and you are able to generate over 1.5 lakh per month. There also, their upper cap is pretty simple, 1.5 lakh per month, and you have to live below the means of 1.5 lakh. The only thing is, earlier stage your upper cap was 1 lakh and today it's 1.5 lakh. You have to curb your temptation. The biggest problem comes is temptation. The biggest problem comes is the emotion. I'm not taking self-discipline and self-punishment. There are two different things between self-discipline and self-punishment. But the reality is, you need to enjoy life. Life is meant to be enjoyed, but there is a reasonable limit to everything. And if you are able to manage it, instead of justifying your own self endlessly, like the banker friend of mine who was uh, then who was trying to justify his home loan and flashy car and still this and still that, and you know you know practically no, any serious buyer is not going to interested. Your friend might, a free party of friend might definitely love to enjoy a party on you, but then easy come easy goes. And a serious one who's really interested in, uh, when it comes to serious talk life, you have to still, sooner or later you will repent it and come back to the same notion that live below your means. Thank you.